Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 80 of the Unchained Vodcast. Today, as usual, I have with me both Kriss and Brand. It was almost so smooth. Kriss and Brand.
Kriss and Brand.
I have Kriss and Vellic with me. I just
Hi,
like
I'm
myself
Brand.
that much.
And I'm
Everyone
Kriss.
is Vellic now. But anyway, today we're going to talk about the development cycle of Camelot Unchained. Specifically,
Yes.
where the game is, where we think, in our opinion, in our views and experiences with MMOs, as people who are not, professional game designers or anything, where it feels like the game is in development, how far along it is, and also talk about the 90-day plan. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the new 90-day plan that they just came out with. We were looking at doing this topic anyway, and then they came out with the 90-day plan, so we're like, oh, great. Stuff to talk about.
Convenient. Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and warn everyone that I'm a little salty right now. So I'm going to try and not be like super pissy, but I'm a little bit.
I'm not even gonna get into it.
Let's get into it.
So we're going to get into it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I'm going to try to keep it not too bitter, but I'm a little irritated. So to really get started on it, between alpha, beta, and all other stages of development, where, to all of you in chat and Kriss and Brand, where does it feel like we are at this point?
Alpha. Very much.
Yeah.
Very much an early alpha is what it feels like.
Yeah.
I can't really disagree.
No, officially we are in beta 1 per CSE's
Officially.
description of where we're at, but it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, and
You know.
I kind of actually wish they would drop that description to a certain degree, just because it feels. I feel like trying to continue to make the argument like this is beta sometimes comes off as a little disingenuous for people. Even though they've explained what they mean and stuff, but it's like when you compare it to other games and everything, it's like okay, well, like Star Citizen, I was just playing earlier, is still an alpha and is about 1,000 times more of a game than Camelot Unchained is at present.
Yeah, I was just watching you do that, and I was feeling that.
It's like, and it feels like that anytime I pull up another game. Like I've been testing out New World, which is not in beta yet. It's in alpha, and it still feels about 100 times more of a game than Camelot Unchained is. And it's like, it's a little frustrating at times. I've said before that, and what you want to designate it as, I think, is kind of unimportant, which is why it kind of bugs me a little bit that they're like, no, we're in beta, because for most people, it's like it doesn't really feel that way. So it's like, really, it doesn't matter what you call it. But for some people, it does feel a bit like you're going, it's in beta. And they're like, is it though?
And they often bring up the term old school to kind of attach a label to it. But that doesn't feel that way either.
Yeah, that's not even an old school beta. It's deserving to them. It's doing a disservice to the game itself.
Well, I think it causes more issues for the developers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they could just be saying we're still in alpha, and people would be like, okay. But since they have to try to justify saying beta, and then people are like, and I think it causes a little bit of friction.
The only thing that feels like a beta is the engine. The development of the engine portion of Camelot Unchained is in beta. And
I've said before that, to me, I felt somewhat comfortable calling it a beta. Still not super comfortable, but somewhat comfortable calling it a beta once we had most of the classes in, once we had a functioning RVR scenario where we could siege and we could build keeps and we could siege things and destroy them and yada, 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 and all this stuff. But we still don't
have that.
Nope. So, and we were supposed to have that like 6 months ago, it felt like. So anyway, that was just, I kind of want to get people's feelings, on that. I see people in chat saying alpha, but meh. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, what you call it doesn't matter that much, so it's kind of...
Yeah, exactly. It's just drop the beta. It's just a name. At this point, it'll make it easier on them having to try to defend the term beta every time.
I don't expect they're going to, but
yeah,
just putting.
But I think it would make it easier on them. I think
it would make it a little bit less contentious.
It might remove some expectation, especially because we know there's supposed to be 3 more phases of this. I think technically, 1, 2, maybe 2 more phases. And that's kind of the question that's starting to boil now from some people, especially regular people on the forums, is when is beta 2 coming? We've been in beta 1 for this amount of time, now over a year. When is beta 2? And so it's creating this expectation of what's coming next. Well, that's probably not going to be met.
Well, this is the thing that annoys me. Like Grimslag said, calling it an alpha would mean less backers get access. This is stupid. The idea that they still have backers in different stages to get access is dumb at this point. The game is so delayed, and they struggle to get people to test the game. That I'm like, just drop it. Just invite everybody at this point, which they almost kind of have at this point.
Yeah.
So it's like, who cares what you call it? Just invite everybody that has backed the game to test it.
Yeah.
It's dumb at this point.
I think all of their most...
go ahead.
No, go.
It's just the fact that you're calling it an alpha doesn't mean you can't decide to give access to other level of backers. We've had access to a lot of things in advance. Right now, it's not a question. Yeah, you're going to have people that are going to complain about it. No matter what you do, you're going to have people complaining about it. Right now, it's not a question of privilege of having access to content earlier. It's a question of having enough people to test to be able to move forward faster. So get everybody in. Call it an alpha again and get everybody in there just because you need testers.
The tiers working concept at the very beginning of development, but it ultimately was a marketing strategy to get people to buy larger tier values. And at this point, our money no longer supports the game. So what's the point?
It's been spent. It's been spent a long time ago.
And one thing I did want to get into here. Let's see real quick. Grimslag saying, to my mind, beta will start when we really consistently appreciate playtesting on the new scenario island, and that is representing in the final build. Yeah, that's kind of what I feel like when I say like having the RVR scenario. I want something that is a micro version of the actual game with building, with destruction, where we can go in and say this feels like still maybe rough, but still like an early version of the actual MMO.
Yeah,
and what it's going to look
the actual game cycle, a small version of it, but the actual game cycle.
And that means classes need to function. They need to have abilities that are at least some semblance of some sort of balance. Not balanced out, right but now. At least functional against each other and stuff. And
crafting needs to be in.
Yeah, we're ways off of that. And we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to dive into real quick before going into the 90-day plan itself, though, was employees. And I mentioned we were going to do the stream a minute ago on the CU Discord, and they kind of blew up about this, which I was like, I'm not getting into, because we were about to get into it now. They announced, and this is kind of the core of what I'm a little bit irked about. They announced the other week, they announced that they were having 4 new hires, 4 new employees, 4 new fairly senior people joining into the development of the game. And they were like, we have hired 4 new people. They're really hyping it up. And I was excited. And several people in chat were excited. We're all saying, yes, 4 new people and a senior engineer and everything, game designer and stuff. That is really cool. That is awesome. And they're like, great. And then like 2 weeks later, someone on the Reddit channel for Camelot Unchained posted that they'd gone crawling through LinkedIn and 4 people have left CSE over the last 2 months. And that got confirmed by Massively OP like yesterday. Yeah. And I was like, so you really just replaced 4 people. I mean, you may have hired them. They may not be like direct, straight one-to-one replacements. But at no point have we been told that those people left. Now, I do fully agree that we do not necessarily need to be privy to all of their staffing decisions, but it is kind of misleading to go, we hired 4 new people, implying we're expanding the team and expanding all this development power.
Yeah.
Oh, but we actually lost 4 people, so we really have a net gain of 0. But we didn't tell you that and we didn't agree to it until someone found out from LinkedIn.
There's a lot of that goes on, it seems. Just the choice of words used in presentations and updates can oftentimes, it seems, be misleading.
Yeah.
And that kind of irked me. And so who left? According to the Post, it was and some of these people I know, some of them I don't. Andrew Jackson, James Brown, Matt Meehan, and Bryce Sepulveda. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I don't know any
He
of
was
them.
working on the server. He was the server guy.
And now that's not to say that they necessarily left because there were problems with CSC. They left. They got other. It looked like they have other jobs, so they got other job opportunities. They moved on. Yada yada yada. In their announcements, saying like we hired 4 new people. We've actually lost some people in the last couple months because they went on to other job opportunities, and we're real happy for them. But we got these new awesome people. I would have been very happy with that. I would have been fine with that. Yeah. Sure, some people probably would have been like, bah, but whatever. I mean, people leave. Yeah. That's a thing. But not mentioning it at all when you're really talking about hiring new people, I was like, okay, now that just feels kind of underhanded.
Yeah. And one of the hires is specifically working on Ragnarok or Final Stand Ragnarok is only doing that. So really, they have 3 CU based hires at the moment. The other one, I'm sure, will transition into CU stuff at some point.
Now, one of those hires does look like at least one of those. I mean, they all look like they're qualified and everything. At least one of them looks like a very good gain for the company and everything. But again, that whole thing just I went from like, yay, 4 new people, that is awesome, to like, what is this crap? Okay.
Yeah, and with one of those new ones being a PvP game designer who's going to be working with Ben and Mark, and I believe Kriss, who's now also a game designer. That leaves only 2 of them to fill in for what we assume are engineer positions, which has always been Mark's strongest need. That's what he's always said. We need engineers. We need engineers. And now he's lost 4 and gained 2.
Now, looking up the people that left, I think only like 2 of them were engineers. They weren't all engineers, so there's at least that.
I don't recognize any of them.
There was a UI designer, I believe.
At least one of them was like a senior engineer, I think. So I think that was Matt, maybe. I don't remember. I didn't write that down. Yeah. It's just kind of frustrating, Again, I can understand not saying anything when people leave, not saying, hey, Matt left, especially if it's not someone super public and visible. But they could at least have made a vague reference to them when talking about, we got a bunch of new people, yay! We did actually lose some people, so we're filling some of those slots and also getting some cool senior people. Even implying that they had a net gain, which they don't, I would have still been okay with that. Like, okay, they at least acknowledged the people left.
Sure.
Instead of he was trying to PR it and make it sound like they expanded the team, and they freaking didn't. And that's
highlight the strengths of the new people coming in, express that, they're replacing, but there's going to be some good things coming out of it. And this and that.
Well, it's especially annoying because 90-day plan. Let's get into that some.
Yeah, let's do that.
We're going to go into what's not in it, but first I want to talk about what is in it. First thing, biggest thing is 24x3 servers. It has taken an alarmingly long time just to get some kind of consistent servers that they don't have to manually run themselves. And it's not that it doesn't sound like they haven't done it because it's not cost effective, just they literally don't have haven't had the tech to do it,
to monitor the servers,
and that worries me. That's a basic functionality of an MMO. How is this a thing that's taking this much effort and time? Because they've talked about this previously, about having this. They've been working on this for like months. So
I think some of it is related to just the bugs that they've been running into, in particular with art, is causing a lot of just strain on the servers they're trying to utilize.
Yeah, and that's possible. I don't know what all the issues are with it. It's just like I said, okay, you can't have an MMO without servers. You can't even say we have a. It's especially hard to say we have a stable beta test of any sort for an MMO if it can't have servers that are running. That's like being like, hey, we've got this awesome multiplayer beta test that we're doing. You can't test it unless you download it and play single player on your PC though. That's how it works. Well, why not? Well, we haven't figured out how to make it run on multiplayer servers yet. We haven't figured that out. I don't know. It's just a little frustrating. There's going to be a common theme in some of my comments here of a lot of things, which no one should be surprised about. A lot of things taking a lot longer than it seems like they ought to have. For instance, the second big thing within the 90-day plan is the RVR scenario completed, as well as a balance pass on classes.
That's the current scenario that they have been testing, which is, from what they said even a few weeks ago, that it is complete and ready for testing. And then we never got testing on it.
I mean, we've been testing it, sort of.
Yeah.
But it's like bug
sort of,
and got problems, and they're still iterating on it. They're still adding NPCs and NPC functionality.
Keep lords aren't done.
We still can't build keeps. That was supposed to be a thing.
Yeah.
Can we not talk about the scenario? No, we're talking about it, Trev. We're talking about it. But that's the thing. Like, they again, this is the reason it bugs me is because this is a thing they've been working on for a while now. They've been working on this RVR scenario since January, and now it's a part of the 3-month plan going through
to finish it
October to finish it
to have it done.
I'm like, so you're saying it's going to have taken us 3/4 of the year to start and finish the RVR scenario, which at that point probably is still going to be missing things. Like they don't even intend to necessarily guarantee that it has a number of different elements of gameplay to it, and it's certainly not going to have all the classes. It's just going to have most of them.
In fact, the idea going into it was, what's on this 90-day plan is probably all we're going to have in it at the beginning, and then they're going to go in and add other features like caravans and things of that nature to it over time.
Yeah.
We're talking a few keeps, a map, NPC guards, and the keep lords, which are basically just somewhat more advanced NPCs with different abilities. And I have a question for everybody, which is kind of, does it feel like the things that were supposed to improve development time, rehabilitation, and all these, they've had 2 or 3 different things. They're like, once we finish this, it'll make creating the game faster.
Yeah.
Didn't at all.
No. To it's sad in that if it did, let's just say that if it made it faster, then we'd be looking at probably a 12 to 15 year development cycle from start to finish, instead of maybe a 10, 9 or 10 years, which is just baffling. I can't see how that would have been the case.
I mean, and Zalen's right. This stuff. I mean, I will say Trev's right. These keeps take a long time to build in Cube. First and foremost, I don't know that the game's keeps should be being built in Cube. I feel like there should be probably more efficient tools to do that than Cube. But that's neither here nor there. That's nothing against Trev and his buildings. I think players being able to build things with Cube, I've said before, is super amazing. But it doesn't seem super efficient for developers to be putting things together. Of course, they've got free work, i.e. Trev building all this
and
stuff.
Scott Florence.
And that's the thing to note. Like, they have free labor building some of these things for them. But, I remember when they did rehabilitation ages ago, they were talking about how once that finished, it took like a whole year to do. And then once it finished, though, it was going to make putting the classes and the abilities in the game so much easier and faster. And maybe it has. Maybe we were destined to the game take 20 years to come out, and this actually is the faster universe. I don't know.
That's just super sad to think about.
It is, really. But yeah, it's like there's. I don't remember what other things. I remember there was at least one other thing, maybe two, that they've talked about. Like, oh, well, once this is done, it'll make this faster. And there have been a couple different utility tools they've talked about. This will make this faster.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, then how slow was it before? Because it doesn't seem any faster. It still took you. We're looking at 9 months to get this one scenario done.
Your average class progression from going into design to getting in lately has been increased to about roughly 3 to 4 months to get it from concepts to at least in a test. But even then, that's still quite a long ways to go for a single class.
And for Jag saying that the game felt better before rehabilitation, I mean, I don't disagree, and it hurts me to say that. Rehabilitation was, 3 years ago at this point?
It was a while.
And
at least.
The game, from a playability standpoint, except for siege and building destruction, I think the game was more playable before rehabilitation. Because we actually had classes. We had air at one point before that. We had stuff shooting and being we had spells and abilities. The graphics sucked. Oh, that's not.
Yeah.
There's no
that's not the point of that.
Lots of elements of the game are better. And there wasn't siege before, and there wasn't building destruction. But
rehabilitation finished when mages were released.
Yeah.
For like the second time or something. But if you go to like the alpha state before that, like everything else was ugly. There was a lot of things missing. But whereas the few classes that were in game, they were kind of playable and they worked at least as good as they do now. The animations and stuff, terrible, clearly. Yeah. But the game has come a long way in a lot of different ways. I don't want to imply it hasn't. But playability-wise, it's like, well, at least in terms of classes, I can't entirely argue. When Cherry Hill Keep came out about a year ago, the game was also far more playable then. I don't know if I would say in some ways. I would definitely not disagree with that in some ways. I would say, I don't know. I don't entirely agree with that. Because there are, new classes and there are things added in that are new functionalities and stuff. But some things are also more buggy. Anytime you add new code and stuff, it just screws everything up. And
I mean, when that came out, there were some other scenarios in play that actually had some functionality to them, and you could do things. Right now, that's just not the case.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily disagree, Trev. Like that I'm not saying rehabilitation wasn't necessary. I'm just saying that when they put it out, they said it was going to make creating abilities and putting characters and classes in the game faster. And at first, at one point, eventually, it did kind of feel like that. Like they started working on several classes and everything and putting them into the game. But then, like, look at the devout. We still don't have the devout functional in game. They were supposed to be part of the last one, the last sprint of stuff. And they're in games, sort of, but they're like buggy as hell.
They're certainly not fleshed out.
It certainly doesn't work very well. And I'm like, okay.
And that's on their list for this next 3 months.
Yeah. So now we're working on finishing the devout, polishing that off. They have talked about a lot of art stuff, some sound stuff, which, I mean, art stuff in the 90-day plan, okay. That's every update, so sure, why not? It's important, but I don't know that it's super important for the 90-day plan for what I care about. New NPC behaviors like patrolling and NPCs. Fixes to make warbands actually work, because we've totally never heard that before over the last 2.5 years.
Specifically, in regards to the support class being able to do warband wide buffs and things like that.
Yeah, to make support be able to target warbands. Which again is something that feels like
kind of normal.
shouldn't we have had that ages ago? Warbands have never worked. Ever. We were promised those like a year and a half ago. They've never worked.
Yeah.
They've never been useful in any capacity. And I don't know that they are yet either, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Not the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
One thing that does kind of irk me, 3 things on this list for the 90-day plan are already marked as done. Why are they on the plan then? If they're done.
Are they marked as done?
Yeah. There's a little bracket at the end that says done.
Yeah. Like fall damage, the fix. The fix to the fall damage.
Yeah, that's a weekly wrap-up item. That is not in part of the damn 90-day plan.
I think part of that comes down to, I believe Mark on the stream said some of this stuff was done during the gap between the end of the previous plan and this plan, because there was a lengthy gap, which is a problem in and of itself. But
it is, and that's somewhat fair. But again, why is it on the plan for the next 90 days?
It doesn't need filler.
Yeah. Okay, sure, they started putting the 90-day plan together already, but those things are done. They've probably already talked about them in the weekly wrap-ups that they do.
Yeah.
So take them out of the 90-day plan.
Yeah.
Would you just leave it in there so it looks longer? I mean...
They're just including very loosely the work done in the last month that hasn't been talked about into this and counting it all as a 90-day loose-term plan.
But they do talk about that stuff every week and every monthly newsletter. And
I don't know.
And none of them are huge items either. None of them are things that I really give a shit about seeing in the 90-day plan.
Yeah. I've gone back and forth on the forums about the legitimacy of calling it a 90-day plan if you're not going to adhere to every 90 days, forming a 4-quarter system of the year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I agree entirely. I mean, even if you, and I've said this before, even if you don't hit the 90-day plan, that's fine. Now, some people won't necessarily understand that, but as an administrator, as a manager, I understand. You have a plan. That does not necessarily mean you are definitely going to hit that plan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so that's why, I don't even necessarily advise them to have 90-day items that say, we will definitively finish this class.
Yeah.
Instead, say 90-day plan, work towards finishing this class, or implement this class, have a functional implementation of this class, something that it has some wiggle room in it that you can then say, well, we've got it mostly done.
The first plan, we all knew going into it, or we all talked about going into it, that they're probably not going to, just history and their track record.
Yeah.
But we came up with an acceptable, this much of work.
There was COVID in the middle.
Yeah. But we all was like, this much would be a victory if they even got this much in. And we knew that going in, that they weren't going to, and we accepted it. And this feels more just tailored differently, like they're setting themselves up maybe to fail harder.
Yeah.
I actually disagree a little bit on that, because one thing I will note is I have not seen anyone complaining about how much they did in the first 90-day plan.
Yeah, no.
People were fairly positive about it. People were like, okay, it's over. You got a lot of stuff done. Cool. I didn't see any people going like, they didn't finish everything in the 90-day plan.
Oh, yeah.
But even with that, even with people not complaining, this plan seems more shallow than the first one.
It does.
It seems like they just mostly didn't put a lot of substance in it and went, we're going to throw a couple big items in there and then a bunch of bullshit. And hopefully, and this should be achievable. Now, part of that may be because they lost 4 important people that they didn't tell us about. And they've replaced them, and they don't know how well their performance is going to be. And that would be fair. But we didn't know 4 people. So
someone was putting this list together who was out sick for a while, unrelated to COVID-19, but was out sick. And that was at least one of the verbal excuses we got for why we hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah. So speculations aside, there's another thing. I've got a lot of things on this 90-day list that annoy me.
There are a lot of things on here.
I will say they're 24x3 servers. I'm excited for that. I want that. It needs to happen. Should have already happened. But I still want it. The RVR scenario. Yes, I want that done. I'm happy to see it in there as a thing. But there are a lot of things that kind of irk me about this one. compared to the first one. I was very pleased with the first one. And one of the things is apparently each realm gets a dragon.
They do. It's kind of I believe, a defensive element to their keeps.
So
why do we need it now?
That, but also with this seems like a new feature, and with as delayed as the game is, why the hell are they adding new features? That's what I want to know. I mean, they always plan to have dragons, sure. I don't recall them ever being talked about as like defensive units or allied to realms.
They've specifically never been talked about, which kind of gives him the ability to just throw them in at a whim and be like, okay, this is what we were actually planning on doing. We just never talked about it.
MJ specifically said for the longest time we would have no way. We don't have any information about dragons. They're in there. We know they exist. We've never seen one, and they're going to be legendary. Why suddenly we have dragons in the development now? Mm-hmm. They could be an extender pack.
Yeah. I think this is just a mix-up of words because they're working on the wyvern model and animations, which he's actually said are different from dragons. They're kind of slightly smaller, I suppose. And maybe that's what they meant here. But I don't think it's necessarily needed at this point in time.
Yeah, it's very much of like, okay, if you're going to cut anything out of development of this game, why the hell do we need wyverns? I mean, really, honestly, like if this game came out and there were no dragons, there were no wyverns at all, I wouldn't care. Not a single bit.
Now, right now it's an art project, so maybe it's just something, the art team has time to do it and they're not doing other things. So maybe it's not crucial in that regard.
It's just like, I saw that on there and I'm like, wait, what?
The thing is,
we're adding dragons, so when are they coding this crap?
Not even that. Is it just art? Because
it's not just art
and gameplay deliveries.
Right now,
in the same categories, they have the completed devout classes. They have giants running around in the game in the same category.
Right. So they worked on modeling for it recently. Then they did the texturing. Right now, they're doing animation on it, from what I've seen, which they classify as art. So maybe that's all they mean is get the animations done. That thing is done, and we can have it in the game doing stuff.
Yeah, which would be cool. I won't disagree that it would be cool. But I'm like, there aren't other things to animate that are a little bit more critical for the game than the fucking wyvern. Okay. It just, again, with as shallow as this 90-day plan feels, I'm like, okay, it feels like they just threw it in there like, people like dragons. This will be cool. They'll be like, oh, cool, dragon. And I'm like, no, why are you working on a dragon? We can't fly it. Yeah. We can't, as far as I know, we can't fight it. We can't fight with it. In fact, I know years back when someone mentioned fighting dragons, he's like, you don't want to fight dragons. So
you don't want to mess with them at all.
I was like, what? I don't know. I just saw it and I was like, wait, okay. With all the crap that's not in this 90-day plan, why the hell are dragons in here?
I mean, if it brings something that they intended to do as part of the game loop, then that's fine. But if it's just a superfluous kind of a cool thing that they're adding to it, then no. Like, do some other more important things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the crafter class.
I was about to say, so while we're talking about them adding dragons and not really, not having other things in the 90-day plan, let's get into some of those things that are not in the 90-day plan that we were hoping to see in the 90-day plan. They are talking about finishing the Devout, because the Devout didn't get finished in the last 90-day plan. They're still real buggy, need a lot of work. But we also get, by the sound of it, concepts for the Spirit Mages and finally for the Crafter class. Which
Concept art.
Well, I don't think it specifically said art. It said
it says concept art for unique crafter class. Concept art.
Concept for unique crafter class, but there's also a line in there, I believe, for class.
Crafter class designs.
In line with
other classes. Which
those are the on-paper designs.
Yeah, which for me says we'll get a random web page with the crafters with some random example of skills.
I don't even think you'll get that.
Yeah, and a bit of background. If that.
The website needs so much updating.
Well, I don't know about website. I don't care about website, but at least a document with that on there. That needs to be a thing.
But that's going to be it. Like a concept art.
Yeah.
And a one-page description of what the class does.
Yeah, which is
that.
Would have been great 3 months ago.
You mean 3 years ago?
Well, yeah, when we got the original, all the same thing for the original classes.
Yeah.
But this is the part that really worries me when it comes to talking about their development cycle and everything. The crafter class, which I know I don't have to explain to y'all, is a foundational class for this game. I mean, the game was basically marketed on RVR and crafting. That's the two main pillars of the game that they basically marketed on. We're going to have RVR, we're going to have awesome crafting and awesome healing. And like looking at my own guild, like at least a third of the members want to primarily do crafting. Tons of people who are backers want to do crafting. That is like their main thing they want to focus on. There's no crafter class in the game. There's no craft. You can craft. Anyone can craft, but you still have no crafter class to see how they fit in actual gameplay outside of building things.
Yeah.
And most crafters I've talked to, I would say at least 2/3 of them, do want to have a role on the battlefield of some sort.
Yeah, definitely.
And so this is what really worries me when we talk about, and we're going to get into talking about the timeline for how long it's going to take for this game to get out and everything, is if we've got 3 months to go before we even get a paper design of what crafters look like, what does that say in terms of the game's development and where it is?
Well, that first and foremost, typically what we've seen in the last year is about a month after Ben has been working on one of these on paper designs for one of these classes, then they actually start getting worked on. You get the concept art, which we're getting in this, and then over the next month, you start getting models and textures. Then it goes to animation. It's like a 4-month process. So in 3 months, we will get this. And then in 4 months, we might see a crafter class in very, very early stages. Yeah, very much. Sometime in 2021, you might have a crafter class that you can log into and do something.
Yeah. And that's very problematic for me. I know it's problematic for Kriss. I know you're over there like you want to punch somebody in the face.
I've looked because I haven't looked at the crafting forum in months. The last significant discussion that was more than 5 replies dates back from February. The reply was from February, from a thread from June 2019. Everything else has 1, 2, or 5 replies. That's it. Crafters are just right now probably. I know I am very disheartened, and I suspect a lot of crafters are.
I'm not even a crafter, and I was pretty disheartened to see the lack of crafting outside of traps and barricades.
Yeah.
For the most part, as far as things that craftable items that are actually getting in, which those are nice. They're going to be needed, but I think it was a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, May 15th update talked about the next plan having a huge crafter update and crafting being more largely a part of the plan, and that's just not what happened. It just does not seem at all that was the case.
Yeah.
I mean, the last 30-day plan had nothing for crafting, and none of the development before that. We haven't had anything serious for crafting in ages, and I'm not a crafter. Really.
Literally in years.
I'm not primarily a crafter, but that was the one thing I wanted to see in this 90-day plan above all else was something substantial for crafters. And I don't think a paper presentation on what goes into the crafter class is substantial enough.
No.
At the very least, giving us that, it better be one hell of a piece of paper. It better not be like those mock-ups we got years ago for all the classes that had 6 abilities and a couple little modules in there and then a picture of the class. That's what, from the description of this, that's what I expect, and I'm just worried that if that's what they give us, there's going to be a lot of really pissed off crafters, because I'm like, we need People need more than that. They need to know how this class is going to function, and not just here's some ability ideas we spitballed really quick and thought, yeah, that works. That sounds pretty good. And we mocked up a little bit of art for them. This will placate you for a while, because this is a recurring theme for crafting. Every time they say crafting is going to get something, they kick it down the road. Every single time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The biggest problem with that, which I really took the most issue with when I watched this stream, was that these crafting items on this plan, Mark gave himself. He's like, this is something I'm doing with Kriss, which means, and Mark kind of got mad at me for even saying this on the forums, but it's true, that it's going to get delayed. It's going to get pushed back because Mark is responsible for so many other things and has a track record of having to jump from one thing to another, and something just gets lost in the trail of work he's left behind.
Yeah. Yep. Why does it have to be him? That's the thing. One of the hires, I can't remember her name now, who was supposed to work on the crafting also, Jessica or something like that.
Christina.
Christina. She was supposed for the longest time. Mark kept saying she's working on the crafting. She's going to work on the nodes and on the crafting. And
we don't have nodes.
Yeah, we don't have the nodes. We have tents.
We still have the tents that you just. We've had those for 2 years now.
Oh yeah,
it's been a while, but like this is his thing. But time and time again, we've asked him like, it doesn't have to be. But we've asked him like, oh, what about this lore for this thing you said? It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about it. I know it needs to get done. I'll get to it. There are just other important things we got to get to, and that could end up being the case for this particular crafting timeline, and that there are just more server-related or technical-related things that become more important.
Yeah, I think in general terms, the thing that about this 90-day plan that has me somewhat worried and disheartened is how far less ambitious it seems than the first one. And I don't understand why, unless it's because of, like I said, that they lost 4 people. And now they're worried they're not going to be able to deliver on a bunch of stuff, which they could have just told us. Like, this one's pared down because we lost some people and now we're training new people. And so that's going to be a process, and we'll rev it up and start up higher. They could have said that. But instead they put out this kind of watered down looking 90-day plan which when comparing it to the first one, I'm like, it just looks less substantial. And on top of that, like I said before, like, I didn't see a great number of people complaining about how much was done in the first 90-day plan. I mean, there's always people complaining about delays. No. Yeah, but I didn't see anybody going like, this 90-day plan was BS.
It looked like a good plan.
For the most part,
I was happy with the amount of progress they had done on it.
And to be fair, we live in COVID-19 world right now, so they've admitted they're just not going as fast. So maybe this is a reflection of this is what we're actually likely to get done, because we're not going to get as much done. At the same time, the presentation of the first 90-day plan was very well done. It had like a nice PowerPoint presentation. There were some cool designs to it. We got this in an email in just a list format. Just here's the plan. No effort to like really. It just looked like no one put the time into making it. They just rushed it. Like, here's what we're working on. Let's write it out. Let's get it out to them. And that's it.
Yeah. Hey, Oxy, welcome to the complaint channel with your rating party. Thank you. We're fussing a lot today.
Yeah.
Let's see, Aldovic. It's not so much disheartening, or I'm not so much disheartened, but as I've said, I'd rather see the actual game world being built, building a new test server. No thanks. Well, and that's, I will say, like, I am still glad that they're working on this RVR scenario, because for me, when they kept, when they first pitched the idea of like the Saturday night sieges and stuff, and these different scenarios they were going to build for testing different things, I was like, that's pretty cool. That seems to make sense. But they were talking about building it within like 6 months. That ended up taking like a year and a half. And then at that point, I was like, no, this is no longer makes sense. I don't want to see this. I want to see a microcosm of the game. I want to see the game in small scale, playable, with sieging and battles and character classes and all that stuff. And that is very much what I feel like this current RVR scenario that they're building is. It is very much a small example of the real game world. It's missing a lot of things still, which a lot of things that I would have hoped some of them would have made it into this plan, and they really kind of didn't. I mean, they could fall under what they consider to be a complete version of it, but I doubt it.
Yeah. Technically, the two items are different: the 24x3 servers and the RVR scenario, but they're actually quite synonymous. The one is supposed to be the RVR scenario is the 24x3 server, essentially. It's what they're going to use on it, at least. So doing work to one means the other one gets done.
Yeah, and I will say again, a lot of great work is getting done by different people, by different devs, and by volunteers. Trev has been building tons of cool buildings, as he showed on our last episode.
Yeah.
Again, they're still super far behind, even with free labor from volunteer backers, which is a whole other issue.
Yeah.
But anyway,
there are some other big items on the list that are important that have actually yet to really be talked about and to really ever be seen. In particular, the Dragon's Web. I know some people
been working on it for a long time,
right? But not a whole lot of like actual real talk on how it works. And a lot of people on the forums, even this week, were like, "What even is this?" And we're like, it's been mentioned several times, but they just were completely unaware that it existed.
Yeah.
So not a whole lot of talk on it, and it'd be nice to actually see how it's going to function.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
That would be nice. But it is also like it's the sort of thing that, sure, this is necessary for the game, but it's another example of something that's largely kind of invisible and to us at the moment. And in terms of like gameplay and for like the individual scenario, we're like, okay, so how does this affect that individual scenario? How is it necessary for it? Because again, this game is super delayed. Where is it coming in?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I would say the Dragon's Web is the game loop that we're all looking for. Just applied to whatever scenario we're in at the time, or the full game once we have that. But that is the game loop, is the Dragon's Web.
Yeah, it definitely seems, it seems like it's connected with, the map and the flow of, controlling the different battles and everything, and all the going to be tied into the game objectives and everything, and knowing more clearly how that works is probably something that would at least be useful. I don't know that it.
I mean, it could just suck. Like, if the implementation of it looks on paper like it's not a good idea, it would be good to know that right now versus a year from now.
Yeah.
Because it controls, like PlanetSide 2, it is the way you control your map. So super important to make sure that it works right and won't be a pain in the ass.
So were there any other items in the 90-day list that you thought needed a little discussion? I've skipped a few things. There's more things on there than what I mentioned.
Some of these are super. We're getting giants. Supposedly they're coming back in. That's going to be nice.
Yeah.
More races that still aren't in the game. Yes.
I mean, they kind of were, and at some point we had Furbolg. Yeah. We had Furbolg. We had the Arthurian stone giant. I forget what they're called now at this point. I haven't seen them in so long. 3
steps forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah. But coming in with the actual like giant scaling that they lacked in the original alpha, the golem. Thank you. And supposedly also with some of the physics associated with being bigger, the mass portion of what makes them special.
Yeah, which, I mean, there's some mentions in there of knockback and stuff, because that's something that, again, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, we have not seen since alpha. Physics and knockback and weight to characters, those are things that we had in testing 4.5 years ago, and like the air system, have not seen since. They have not come into play.
Yep.
And getting those back in would be a significant step, a very important one. It's just, I think that is like one of the more frustrating things is how those of us who have been here for so long, we look back to the old state of the game where the game was ugly as sin.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
there was a lot of this functionality in the game, and then at somewhere it just was cut off and lost completely, and they have to like completely rebuild it apparently. And it's like, okay, sure, I guess. It's kind of frustrating.
And I know it's gonna make Treville scream, and I'm gonna hear it from here. But we could have done without the cube update this plan.
I disagree.
I disagree with that.
I think the cube update is going to be necessary for getting the building aspects from the crafters in sooner.
Yeah, because again, a lot of the game design work is being done by Trev and one or two other volunteers, and without some of these upgrades,
if it speeds their life up, it speeds our life up.
And yeah, as Trev
So
said, they already did the cube update. Well, I thought this was supposed to be a new cube update. Now I know
another item that should have done next to it.
Maybe this is another item that should say done next to it. I don't know, but I just fixed the textures and all like last week.
See, so very vague cube update is what that means.
So very basic.
Yeah.
As we said earlier, there does seem to be a little bit of counting things they've already done as a part of this 90-day plan.
Yeah.
I'm
a lot of padding.
Yeah, I'm a little bugged by the overmind items in this. The first item is overmind more requests, which is fine. Add more things to its capability. But then the next item is expand its ability to work within CU and add more life variety to the game, which just seems like it never really did what they broadcasted it was already doing. It seemed like it's supposed to have this massive, beautiful control over everything, easy to work with in Excel, this and that and this and that, but that it really is so simple right now that it's lacking the ability to do the things they've been saying it should be doing, which
I don't know.
Just seems misleading.
Now, they are also supposed to do some other things to Cube, from what I understand, but the biggest things they fixed a few days after the update. But yeah, that's kind of what I was assuming from this, was that, because I know we had talked before, and we had you on our show last month, and you said that they were working on a Cube update, so I assumed this was maybe like another part of that or something. Still, I'm very in favor of Cube updates. I've said before, and I'll say it again a million times, I think that Cube is one of the most important parts of this game. And it's one that's similar to crafting, has been ignored for far too long. Unfortunately, has been ignored less than crafting, I think, but has still been ignored for a long time. And so it desperately did need the updates, just like, crafting really needs the updates.
Yeah, crafting needs a lot of things, not just the crafter classes. It needs the Vox. It needs the UI. It needs so much things.
Yeah, but for me, from a test, there's two reasons I'm frustrated about it not being in there as getting crafter class actually in game or even partially in game. Like they could have at least been like, we're just gonna start getting crafter in game. I would be like, okay, that's still not great, but okay, it's something. Instead of just, we'll have a piece of paper that says crafter on it. Is one, I know how many people.
No, it's going to be a PDF.
How many people are backed wanting to be a crafter, and I'm like, that's kind of important. Want those people to have their class and stuff. But two, from a gameplay standpoint, I'm like, if you're going to have that many crafters in game, how can you test and balance this game and its functionality at all without the crafter class in it? It blows my mind. Yeah. Just the idea. I'm like, we don't know what they're going to do.
Not even that. The problem they've had for a lot of their functionality that they've actually axed now is, how can you decide and determine if the crafting and the crafter class are fun if we can't test them?
Exactly. Well, that's very much what I mean. Not only balancing it with other people and whether or not it's going to be fun to kill them, but whether the crafter class will be fun at all to play outside of building things.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would dare say that having them in would increase test population, which would also just help with engineer-based problems that they're having, not just the other classes, but you might also start to see some of these crafter individuals, once they're doing that, also maybe make some other classes and just give those a test while they're at it, which right now they're not doing.
Well, yeah, not to mention being able to craft items that actually matter in the game.
Yeah.
Because, again, how do you test all that stuff if none of the items really matter at all? Sure, you can make things, but why? Like, just for the fun of making them, I guess. A character gameplay feel should be massively improved, too. I mean, for sure. Nothing's fully functional. That's the thing. Even the classes that have been in the test for ages aren't fully functional. The heavy fighter doesn't have active block. It's a core part of the class. Still not in there. But anyway, and not in the 90-day plan. So what I did want to push into next, besides just complaining about the 90-day plan, is based on where we are now and what is and is not in the 90-day plan, when do y'all think this game will actually launch?
Let's see, we're in 2020, now over halfway through.
I'd say 2022.
End of 2022.
What they think will be in by end of quarter 3 2020.
End of 2022 is my not so safe guess.
Yeah. And I very much agree. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the optimistic date.
Yeah. My optimistic guess.
And that's sad that I feel like it's optimistic to say into quarter 4 2022 for a game that was theoretically originally supposed to come out like this year. But, you know, we look at the things that they've come out with this year, over just this year so far, and assuming these things in this 90-day plan get done, then we've got making NPCs that aren't 100% useless, one RVR scenario that still lacks some things that are supposed to be basic game functionality and core parts of the gameplay. They added 2 classes, the Mage and the Devout, and the Devout's not even done. Did they add something else early in the year? Like, it was halfway done, I think. I don't remember. But basically 2 classes. Kind of, sort of finished Linuxification. Go ahead and take a shot.
Mostly.
Added battering rams and worked on building destruction and some cube improvements. That's by my recollection, top line items, what got done this year so far. End of this next 90-day plan. So I look at that and I go, okay, what do we still need? We still need 1 class, possibly 2, but at least 1 craft, which is the crafter. It's the main class left that we need. Finish crafting, which still not fully done by any means. Don't even have gathering nodes and stuff in the world.
Start crafting seriously.
Yeah,
because it's right now it's a basic 1 + 1 equals 2, and that's it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, things they have to do for the game to launch. Trade and transport routes, caravans, those aren't even a thing at all. Respawn mechanics, being able to build buildings, and not only build buildings, but build cities and markets. Complicated network social buildings that they've talked about having, player housing, veil storms, more races, because the giant races still aren't back in yet, and there's other races besides those that aren't in yet. And I'm like, okay.
There's other races that don't even have designs to them yet that we know, like the Vikings are still waiting for their last race or something.
Yeah. We never got lore for the Sturm. And so it's like, maybe Q4 2022 if I really want to be like, I look at what's been done this year so far and I'm like, I don't see all of that what I just listed being done in another year.
Just alone the crafting class and the spirit mages we're actually getting for launch as well. Those 2 items will take a full year. Not that other things won't get done during that time, but those 2 items alone will take a full year.
And then they have to test and rebalance all this stuff.
Yeah.
And Trev, you may be building the Viking city, but players are supposed to be able to build big cities and build their own markets within them out of cube and player building and stuff. So we haven't even seen a facsimile of a hint of how that's going to work. So at this point, I would not be at all surprised if the notion of player-built cities completely goes out the window and it never happens. in the game, because I can't see how that can be developed without taking 6 months at least to build it.
Yeah. Again, optimistic date.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very much like, okay, this 90-day plan will end at the end of quarter 3, 2020. We'll then have 3 months during holidays for them to finish out 2020. Then
yeah, which December is not gonna. December is going to be a very weak month for them, just because we don't know the holidays and we don't know the state of what COVID-19 will look like then, and
and so again, we've been a little bit more fussy than I'd intended to be, but like I said, coming into it, I was a little salty. I'm a little frustrated over the current 90-day plan, obviously.
I'm not even angry at this point, because there's no point in being angry. I'm disheartened, and honestly, I don't know. It feels like betrayal, and I know it's a big word, and I know MJ would be pissed if he ever watched that show that I've used that word, but I think it's a betrayal of one of their foundational principles. Because right now, what I'm seeing happening is MJ wanting the crafting, most notably the crafting. The rest also has issues, but the crafting in general, which was one of the core tenets of that game. I'm seeing MJ wanting it to be him and only him working on that and being his baby and his project, and not letting anybody else work on it means that at some point he's going to have to make the hard decision of just making a cookie cutter crafting just to have the crafting in the game, because it's going to be too late to have it the way he wanted to have it.
It's possible.
And
he's getting help with Kriss.
Sad.
Kriss is now helping him. The second, or the third, whatever number you want to call it, game designer.
That's not the first time we've heard that either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. MJ, and that's the thing I've had to learn as a manager. I'm managing 2 hotels. I'm managing a few dozen people with deadlines, with people I'm accountable to. You need to learn to delegate. And that's something MJ desperately needs to learn. Because right now, that's I feel that's the main problem of CSE. MJ needs to learn to delegate more.
I think we've all agreed at various points that project management, as Zaylan said, is very much seems to be a big factor. Now, obviously, we don't know how things run internally, but from an external point of view, it very much seems that they have problems with managing all their different projects and prioritizing things. And we get this list of stuff, and I'm looking at it going like, how is this a priority? How is this coming up? And none of this stuff got finished. And all this stuff gets like forgotten and pushed back and pushed down the line. How does crafting, which is supposed to be a cornerstone of this game, even though I don't craft, and thus the amount I care about crafting is mostly only through me wanting other people to enjoy the game and have fun, I'm like, how is that keeps getting kicked down the road? And that is not something that got finished as one of the first things and is being reiterated on the entire time. And so, and that's the unfortunate thing. Like, there's another game that I feel suffers from some of these same sort of problems to a very different degree and a very different way is Star Citizen. It's a similar thing where they don't seem to prioritize the things that I feel. Now, obviously, they don't care about my opinion. They don't always seem to prioritize the things that I think they should to get the game out, and they definitely don't seem to prioritize getting the game out that quickly. For them, it's a very different reason, a very different cause, and very different results. But the most important difference, I think, is they have the money to be able to bullshit around. They have tons of money. They can just mess around all time and for several years, and it's not going to hurt their wallets that much. CU doesn't have the money to keep messing around. They've already messed around for a lot of years, and they've gotten a lot done, and a lot of it is good. And a lot of it is not good.
And IOG, yes, it is supposed to mitigate a bit of that. But that was the case also with Max being on the team. They had a
Mitigate
special
lore
stretch goal.
writing.
They had a special stretch goal to have a writer. They hired a writer and they made him do a fucking tabletop game instead of writing lore, writing stories, because MJ wanted to be the one doing it and he was only doing the proofreading. So seeing the problem, wanting to fix it, and actually fixing it are two very different things.
And we got Max on the show at one point, and we kept kind of pressing him to find out, like, is there a bunch of lore for the game that you've written that's not out? And he was like, no.
MJ writes the lore, and he proofread.
Like, you've been the writer for like 3 years, and this is I mean, we're trying not to be jerks about it. We're like, this is what we got. Because it's not a lot there.
And to be fair, we have Brian, who is a really good test manager, whose title is community manager, who Mark spends more time on the forums responding to the community than he does because he's doing test management. Yeah.
And again, I do want to iterate. I don't say any of these things, and I don't think any of us say any of these things to blame those individual people. To say that like Max should have done more, or that Brian should be doing something more, or something, anything like that. Not by any means. It comes down to organization and management, and then like you get a community manager in, and they're not really interfacing with the community that much. Now he has done some community stuff for me when I've had to contact him for some forum stuff and things like that. Yeah. It's been great, but I'm like, he's a community manager. Shouldn't he be like kind of like the face of the community? And perhaps some of that is the expectation that I had from Genesee, because she very much was. They had her like in front of us. Had her in front of us, interfacing with us, talking to us, giving us updates.
She was given time to do what she was hired to do. Brian doesn't.
Well, Brian has a multi-skill set, it seems. His knowledge of servers and just the tech side of things allows him to be the test manager. So they utilize him for it.
Yeah, but give him time to manage the community also, because it needs to be managed right now. There wouldn't be so many problems either on the forums, and MJ being stressed. It's not his job to moderate the forums. If he let Brian do some of his job, he wouldn't have to deal with some of the backlash that he had to deal with.
Well, he'll have less to moderate on the forums now that they have implemented new rules. Now
that we're not allowed to talk about it.
Not allowing to criticize development anymore.
A community manager is supposed to be the buffer between the dev team and the community. Let somebody be the buffer. It's not MJ's job to do it. Yeah. He's got enough things to stress about.
Well, and I don't, and I think that's kind of the point. Like, I don't want MJ to have to be. It's great when he replies to somebody, but I don't want him to have to be trolling through the forum and reading people's angry
trying to defend
BS.
A point of view.
It'd be like him trolling, going through the subreddit all the time. I mean, hell, I just stopped moderating that thing because I got tired of listening to people's BS, and I don't even get paid for it.
It takes a certain skill set to be a community manager or a moderator, or just dealing with the constant negativity you will have, because that's the main thing you have to deal with. People that are happy, you don't need to manage them. What you need to manage is people who are unhappy. And that takes a certain amount of skills and a different set of skills than making a game.
Well, and that's the thing.
I don't doubt MJ is passionate about his game or his company, or I don't doubt that MJ has his heart on the right place, but I don't think he has the skill set to deal with that, because it's not what he had to do and had to learn.
Oh, and that's the thing.
You need somebody to do that for him.
Even for people with that skill set, community managers burn out a lot.
Oh yeah,
It is
definitely.
not something that a lot of people survive in for a long time. And so the idea of him doing that instead of working on the game is frustrating because I'm like, one, you don't need to
Yeah,
have to put up with that crap. And two,
exactly.
we'd much rather you work on crafting
Yeah.
than replying to people in the forum.
Yeah.
Every
And
3
he
hours
would
you're
make his
spending.
life easier.
Yeah, every 3 hours you're spending, trying to defend your methodology and your development cycle to these naysayers on the forums is hours you're not doing the thing you appointed yourself to do, which is craft.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, I do want to say that we're obviously kind of irritated about stuff, and we've been waiting on the game for years. So, there's a lot of us that are irritated. But I think it's fair to say that we try to be very honest. By and large, when we're irritated about something, we say it. But many of us have also simultaneously gone to bat for CSE and for MJ and stuff.
Oh yeah.
There've
We've been accused of being fanboys more than once.
First podcast we were on got dissolved after the other guy decided we were fanboys and just bah. But
we're not critical enough.
Yeah, because we refused to criticize them on stuff that we didn't think was fair. And even recently, I've gone and defended them about the refunds thing on the subreddit because I do think that some of their arguments for why they haven't issued out refunds is fair. People disagree with that. Some people disagree very vehemently with that, but I do think that I don't know all the details, obviously, and I do think that some of it is potentially fair. And it is what it is. But I've kind of gone on there and defended them some for that. But yeah, we've argued a little bit about it on like that on the Reddit. But that's the thing. When things annoy me, I'm still gonna fucking say it, and I do think that this
we try to be honest
is kind of crap. And I do think a lot of the issues with regard to CSE do come down to management issues. That is not to necessarily imply that MJ and the others that are running it are bad at all areas of that and all areas of management stuff, but they definitely seem to have some issues with prioritizing projects and things get delayed and issues come up again and again and again. And I agree, Oldovic. I would like to see the end of refunds. I would very much like for them to come out and say, okay, you know what? We're setting a date. 4 months from now or 3 months from now, we're not taking any more refunds. That's it. You can get a refund by then. After that, we're done.
Headache.
I would be perfectly fine with that. I still wouldn't get a refund at this point. And if I decided later on I was pissed off and going to stop backing, well, then I'm just out that money. Like I would be with any other game.
Yeah, exactly. And same, if I might be mistaken, but as far as I know, MJ handles those also.
He's the only person on the team who handles refunds. And for anyone who doesn't know how it works right now, they're stored away physically on a computer that is locked away at the office, and no one is at the office right now, so they can't get processed. And Mark Jacobs refuses during this COVID pandemic to go to the office. It's that simple.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to super get into refunds because it is a whole thing where I don't necessarily disagree with the people who are mad about it either. Like I feel like they're justified to be angry. I just don't necessarily think that there's anything that at this point that CSE themselves can necessarily be expected to do about it. Maybe there are things they should have done about it, but at this point it's too late for that.
Their setup for it no longer allows them to do what other companies might already have put in place.
So anyway, now that we have spent a considerable amount of time complaining, I do want to go back to the 90-day plan a little bit because there are some things in there that are worth looking forward to. Specifically, and I think most importantly, the 24x3 servers, having the game tests up. 3 days per weekend. We've been waiting for it for a long time. They've been struggling Sorry, hiccups. They've been struggling to get it out for a long time, but finally getting that up is going to be huge. It's going to finally allow us to plan testing, which is something we've wanted for ages, to be able to say, hey,
yes,
let's all get on next weekend and test.
I see some good and bad things with it. Having the ability to plan those is
testers.
Good. I actually disagree with that part. I think that if there isn't anything in there that represents a new thing, that something we haven't really seen, or a gameplay loop that we haven't seen, then it's just going to be the same old people testing, doing the same things, and just kind of going in for 30 minutes and logging out. You're not going to have a reason to spend your entire weekend testing.
I very much agree with that,
but
actually.
At the same time, 90% of the tests we've had running right now have been at times where people can't log in, or it's too short notice, or things like that.
In that regard, it'll be a good thing. You'll have accessibility to it.
I will actually say I kind of agree with Brand, but I agree with Kriss also that I do think the number of testers will increase because there'll be reliable testing. People can know what's going on. But I think the number of testing will increase only because the number of testers is so low right now anyway. Like, no one's on anyway. Hardly anyone gets onto the test when they happen, because they announce them like the day before, or sometimes the day of, and then go, we're having a test. This is when we have weekend tests. They still like barely give you any forewarning, and then like, we're having a test, and then like I think the most I've seen, maybe like 8 people are on. So I'm like, how can you go much lower than that? So we probably will have some increase in testers, especially knowing that amongst the community, if we really want to get a test going, I think people in the CU community will coordinate and be like, maybe we pick a weekend and we do it, and we go like, and I think to counter that, I think CSE themselves can organize some stuff. They can say, okay, we've got 24x3 tests. They're going to mostly be pretty light, like Brand said. There's not going to be a lot of people on at any one time, because now it's open 24 hours. People can get on all kinds of random hours.
Yeah, but at the same time, no, but cumulatively, there's going to be more testers.
Yes.
Yeah, but you need people to kill. That's the problem.
Yes.
And you need people to fight. And I think CSE can organize some stuff. They could organize and say, okay, we're not going to have
that too.
We're not going to have devs on, but maybe at this time I think it can be as simple as them saying, okay, we've got 24x3 servers, but maybe on this day at this time we try to get a rush to destroy keeps, and that may help give people a time to go, okay, that time. But it's up to CSE to kind of help organize those ahead of time.
Yes.
And if they do that, I think they will see some better turnout for those times. And I think it's easier for them to organize them if they have the 24x3 servers, because they don't necessarily have a dev there. They could just say, guys, can you get on at like 2 p.m.? And some people will show up.
Yeah. They just need to fix the things that are currently wrong with it. Because there's a vocal element on the forums and in the beta sections that it just doesn't seem fun right now with what's there. There isn't a whole lot to do, and there needs to be something to do, or people are just going to log in for a small amount of time and then log out and wait till something else is added to it.
We need the keeps, we need siege, we need the keeps to be destroyable, not just claimable, but actually have to actually blow through the outer walls to get inside of the things and then go in and capture them. And that was, and that again was like a minimum thing I wanted for beta 1. To call it beta 1 was, I want keeps that we can build and we can destroy and we can capture. Basic functionality of the keep system. And I not really. I mean, it has been a little while since I went into the test, I will admit. But last time you had to do no sieging. You just had to walk in and capture it. So maybe they added a wall you have to siege through to get into it. But last time I was there, that was not a thing.
I think the last video they showed, they had NPCs doing most of the sieging. Not that you couldn't also do it, but they just had them preset and destroying the castles. But I believe that destruction may have been turned off.
Okay, well, that's good to know. That's good to know, Iog.
And then there's the
added
keyboards.
some walls and stuff you have to actually destroy and not just walk inside the building. And the Keep Lord. They had the Keep Lord last time I was in there doing testing and stuff. It was buggy and not functional. They got to fix that. But
there's a lot of pathing issues they're still tackling. There's imbalances in the classes that make playing against those classes very unfun.
Yeah.
There's just a lot that needs to be in.
A whole topic about heavy fighters that everyone disagreed with. So anyway, but I think that is something that we can all look forward to, at least, is having the testing up. And I think that having, I guess, the light at the end of the tunnel for this, the silver lining, is once they have the servers up so we can get some kind of consistent testing and we have functional sieging and capture of keeps, I think we will then have not as much of a microcosm of the game as I would like, but we will at least have something that is playable and is gameplay so that people can once again actually have some fun testing. And that will be, I think, will help to shift a lot of people's feelings about the game a little bit. There's still some of these other problems that are going to be lingering, but I think having a playable experience will certainly help things. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and say we're wrapping up. We will, of course, be back in a month to talk more Camelot Unchained. Until then,
if you have your internet,
hopefully. I am moving, but hopefully. We'll see everyone then.
Yep.
Later.